Hello children, let me welcome you to the virtual training center of the Brihan Mumbai Mahanagar Palika. My name is Shraddha teacher. Children, we are in the middle of the COVID-19 pandemic, isn't it? Because of that, we are not able to go to school, but that doesn't mean that we are going to stop learning. We are going to meet here regularly through the virtual training center to learn many lessons in EVS. So come on, let's go to a lesson in EVS. Come on children, let's start with another lesson in standard 4th. Subject is EVS 2. And EVS 2 is, yes, we will learn about the life and times of Shivaji Maharaj. Now children, in the previous lesson, towards the end of the lesson, we saw that Shivaji Maharaj passed away, sadly, okay? And he was not very old also. He passed away at a young age. And the entire, you can say, place of Maharashtra, or the places where Shivaji Maharaj ruled, the places where he had his swaraj, they were plunged in darkness. They were plunged in sorrow. Alright, now to understand why Shivaji Maharaj was such a great and able king, we will learn some more things about his policies. Okay, we will see why he is still considered as India's greatest king. So in today's lesson, children, we are going to discuss about how he managed the forts and the navy. Now, any country, in order to be strong, in order to be independent, in order to protect itself, it has to have certain armed forces. Okay, now in India at present, we have the army, we have the navy, we have the air force, we also have the border security force and such other agencies which look after the security, which looks after the protection of our country. Now during those times also, the times when Shivaji Maharaj was alive, even during those times, he had forts and he had a very, very strong navy. Alright, navy means what? Navy means a lot of ships which carry weapons and which guard the coasts of the country. So today we will learn about how Shivaji Maharaj built these forts and how he, he formed a navy and how he maintained this particular navy and how Shivaji Maharaj's forts and Shivaji Maharaj's navy was supposed to be the best. Okay, so let us see all those points in this lesson today. So we will be learning about the forts which Shivaji Maharaj had. Can you see all these different forts? Alright, they're so strong. And look at them. Some of them are on top of the hills. Some of them are in the middle of a forest. Some of them are inside water also. Okay, in an ocean or a sea. So Shivaji Maharaj worked very hard in order to make and also to maintain these forts. They're called as Gard in Marathi. Okay, these were the places from where the Sardars of Swaraj used to take care. They used to rule. They used to maintain law and order in the neighboring areas. So these are some of the forts which Shivaji Maharaj had. Now let's take a look at his navy. So he had very big boats in his navy. And these boats were also armed. Alright, and Shivaji Maharaj used to himself sometimes go and check, and also he used to visit these ships. He used to go to the ports and he always had a keen eye on his soldiers. So in today's lesson, let us learn about the navy as well as the forts like we just discussed. Okay, so at the beginning, let us try and understand that Shivaji Maharaj conquered many enemies to establish his swaraj. Okay, so it was not an easy task. We saw in so many of the lessons that we just did in this textbook, alright, that Shivaji Maharaj had to face the Mughals, he had to face the Adil Shah, he had to face the Nizam Shah, and not only that, he also had sometimes trouble with his own people. But in spite of all this, he conquered many enemies and he established Swaraj. Okay, that is, he established our own rule. He believed that we should never be slaves to others. Alright, so he had so many struggles in his life and he bravely faced all these struggles. So Shivaji Maharaj conquered many enemies in order to establish his swaraj, be it war or governance. His management skills can be seen in all areas. So whether it is when he was at war, that is when he was fighting with his enemies, or when he was solving the problem of his people. You can see these two pictures here. In one, you can see Shivaji Maharaj with a sword in his hand, and he looks very angry here. That is, he is on the battlefield with the enemies. Okay, so he is in a very different kind of a mood, you can say. But look at the other picture where he is sitting in his court and all the people, his subjects, are around him. Look at the look on his face. See, he's so calm and composed. He's so quiet. He's so peaceful. Alright, so whether it was war or whether it was governance, his management skills could be seen in all the areas possible. Alright, now let us talk about something else. So, you will see that we have talked about the management skills of Shivaji Maharaj. Now, let us learn something about the management skills of Shivaji Maharaj in this particular lesson. Let us first try and understand what is management skill. Management skill means working in a disciplined manner on a task one has undertaken to achieve a definite goal. Is it difficult to understand? Let's see it once again. Management skill means working in a disciplined manner. Disciplined manner means what? What is the meaning of discipline? Discipline means doing things on time, doing things properly. Okay? On a task one has undertaken, that is, if you want to do something, you should do it properly, so that you will achieve whatever you have wanted to do. For example, if your aim is to get good marks in your exam, then what should you do? You should study in a disciplined manner. You should study every day. You should study regularly, and you should work hard so that the task that you have taken, that is the task of getting good marks, you will be able to achieve it. Alright, now let me give you a small example in order to explain this. See, look at all this. What is this in this picture? What can you see? You can see a boy of your age. See, he's getting up in the morning and then he's brushing his teeth, and then he is having something to eat, and then he is having a shower, and then you can see he's doing some exercise. So, what is he doing actually? What is this happening over here? It is nothing but management of time. Okay, now from the time you get up in the morning till the time you go to school, there are so many things which have to be done. If you do them in a disciplined manner, if you do them in a proper manner, you will be able to achieve your goal. And what is your goal? At 11 o'clock. Can you see the timing here on the clock? At 11 o'clock, you have to leave your house to go to school so that you will reach your school on time. Now suppose you do not get up on time. You get up very late. And then you will brush your teeth in a hurry, and then you might not have a shower. You might not have your breakfast. You might not do any exercise. You will simply rush to school. Okay, and then you will be very disturbed. So you need discipline for management. You need discipline in order to achieve anything. And this discipline is called in a way as management. Okay, so we now saw how a child has to manage. And imagine how difficult it must have been for Shivaji Maharaj to manage everything in his kingdom. Okay, so Shivaji Maharaj, as you can see, the management skills were seen at all times in the battles he fought all his life, and also in his overall administration. So we just saw the picture where when he was in battle, he was looking totally different, and when he was sitting in the court, he was looking different. So the management skills of Shivaji Maharaj can be seen at all times. It is not that he was only disciplined when he was in the war field, or he was only disciplined when he was sitting in his palace or in his court. He was managing well. That is, he had very good management skills at all times in his life. Alright, and that is why he was called a great king. He is remembered even today. Okay, now you will see that what all things did he do? How did he manage Swaraj so well? So he built a lot of forts. Along with that, you will see that he managed these forts. Now it is not easy to manage these forts, okay? And along with that, he also had a lot of guns and ammunition so that he could protect his state, he could protect his Swaraj. Okay, so his skills were displayed in all these different areas. In building of the forts, in management of the forts, in maintaining guns and ammunitions, and also of course in maintaining a very, very strong navy, which we will learn later about. Okay, so first thing we're going to talk about today is building of forts. That is, what efforts did Shivaji Maharaj take in order to build these forts, and then how did he maintain these forts, and who were the people who used to work for him in order to maintain these forts. So let us start by understanding that Shivaji Maharaj protected his Swaraj with the help of forts. Okay, so you can see this fort here, which is supposedly on a seashore, so it must be a sea fort. So he built a lot of forts, and he also captured some forts, and he repaired and maintained certain other forts. Why? Because he knew that the forts would go a long way for protecting his Swaraj. In the book Ajna Patra, or the Royal Edict, the importance of forts has been aptly summed up as follows. The person who has written this has said that the forts are the essence of the whole kingdom. That is, whatever a king's kingdom is, whether it is big, whether it is small, the essence or the beauty or the importance of the whole kingdom lies in the forts. Alright, so this is what is written in the book called as Ajna Patra, or the Royal Edict. Okay, now some more things about the forts. Shivaji Maharaj had roamed through the Sayadri ranges in his youth. So you can see the Sayadri ranges. We saw that how as growing up, he used to play various games with his friends. Okay, he used to roam around in these jungles along with the wild animals. So he had roamed through the Sayadri ranges a lot during his youth. On countless occasions, he had gazed at the forts situated in the Sayadri. So there were certain forts which were already there. I told you, he built some forts. He also captured certain other forts. So there were some forts there in the Sayadri, and Shivaji Maharaj used to constantly look at them. He used to gaze at them. He used to observe them. He had understood the importance of forts in the protection of Swaraj. He understood that forts are very, very important in order to protect Swaraj. Okay, so you can see the Sayadri ranges here. Can you see these mountains? They are called as the Sayadris. Okay, so that is why Shivaji Maharaj believed that it is very important that you maintain forts properly. You build them also, and you maintain them also. But you will see that most of these forts, children, they are not in a very, very good condition today. Okay, they are all a little broken down. Now Maharaj had spent a lot of money on building and on repairing these forts also. And there were lots of people also on these forts. Okay, there were a lot of soldiers who used to stay on the forts, and there used to be a lot of food also for these soldiers, which would be stored for them on the forts. Alright, so this was the importance of forts for Swaraj. Now, see, these are also the Sayadri ranges. You can see the fort here. Okay, a beautiful fort in the Sayadri mountain range. Now, Shivaji Maharaj built all three types of forts. That is, forest forts, sea forts, and hill forts. Now, you can see this is a sea fort. Why is it called as a sea fort? Because it is in the middle of a sea. It is surrounded by water on all sides. Now, why do you think this was important for protection of Swaraj? Because it is so difficult to approach this fort. If someone tries to swim or get onto a boat and reach the fort, immediately the soldiers would locate them. Okay, so this is a sea fort. There were also forts which were built inside the thick forests, which were called as forest forts. And then there were hill forts, that is forts which were situated on top of hills. So Shivaji had built all three types of forts. He didn't spend money just on building one type of fort, but he had built all three types of forts. Now there were certain forts, like I told you, which were built in the middle of the sea. Alright, can you imagine how difficult it must have been to build such a fort, to carry the material and to make the foundation inside the water? It must have been very difficult. Now these sea forts were called as Janjiras. Okay, now there is a place which is very, very famous close to Mumbai where people go and spend their time. Murud Janjira. Okay, so there is a Janjira, there is a sea fort near Murud which is called as Murud Janjira. So what is Janjira? Janjira is a sea fort. Okay, see, this is one more picture of a sea fort. Can you see it is so difficult to approach it? See, it is surrounded by such deep oceans on all the sides. Alright, but Shivaji built all these type of forts. He understood that they were very difficult to maintain Swaraj if there were no proper forts. He also employed experts like Hiroji Indulkar and Arjoji Yadav to build many new forts like the Rajgarh, Pratapgarh, Sindhudurg, etc. So these were all the forts which were built by Shivaji Maharaj. The fort at Rajgarh Fort, the Pratapgarh Fort, the Sindhudurg Fort, all these forts were built by Shivaji Maharaj with the help of experts like Hiroji Indulkar, Arjoji Yadav, etc. He repaired some forts also. It is not that he built all the new ones or he built all new forts. It was not like that. There were some forts, like I told you, like today's condition. In those times also there were certain forts which were very, very run down. Okay, you use a word called dilapidated, that is, they were in a broken down condition. He repaired some old forts like Vijayadurga Fort, Torana Fort, Rangana Fort, and then he also built a new fort at Raigad. So how many forts did he have? He had about 300 forts. Imagine 300 forts. Okay, so this is how Shivaji built as well as he maintained his forts. He repaired them also from time to time. Now let us talk about maintenance of the forts, which are the people he used to maintain. But before that, just see how difficult the job must have been of building the forts. That time there was no concrete machine, there were no lifts, okay, there were no huge trucks which would carry material. So everything was done manually, that is by human beings. You can see the water carrier carrying the water, and the animals were used to draw water. Alright, then you can see the people, they're actually carving stone. Nowadays you have concrete mixing machines, but there was nothing of that sort at that time. So it was sheer hard work, it was sheer determination on the part of the king also, and hard work on the part of the people. So this is how a fort was built. You will see this picture in your textbook too. Then let us talk about how Shivaji managed these forts now. Building the forts was one difficult task, but managing it was another difficult task altogether. So how did Shivaji manage these forts? Shivaji Maharaj had made definite arrangements for the protection of forts. So he knew that if building the forts were important, then management of the forts was more important. Okay, you need to manage the fort, and the most important point about managing a fort is protecting it, because if you do not protect what you have built, it will very soon be captured by someone else, and then you will not have the fort at all in your hand. All your money, all your efforts will be wasted. So he made special arrangements in order to protect the fort. See, there were such huge, high compound walls, and they were also guarded. Okay, it was not left as it is. And the roads, the approach roads to the fort were also guarded. There used to be guards around at all times. Some of the forts, of course, were built in the middle of water. So approaching it was very, very difficult. So can you see, this is a representation of a sea fort, that is a Janjira. And see how it is protected, huge high walls and a very, very strong gate. So this is how Shivaji kept the enemies out. Okay, so he had made very, very definite arrangements for the protection of forts. On each fort, the officers, that is the Kiledar, Sabnis and Karkhanis, were appointed. The Sabnis and Karkhanis worked under the Kiledar. Now, who's a Kiledar? A Kiledar means the fort keeper. You can say he is like the manager of the fort. So there were these officers, the Kiledar, and under the Kiledar there was the Sabnis and the Karkhanis. Okay, and the Sabnis and Karkhanis worked according to the instructions of the Kiledar. Now what all work did these people do? See, the Kiledar, or sometimes he was also called as a Havaldar, they used to protect and administer the fort. Administer the fort means manage the fort. That is why I said Kiledar means as good as the manager of the fort. And the Kiledar also used to issue orders to the Sabnis and the Karkhanis. So the Kiledar used to tell the Sabnis and Karkhanis how the work should be done. He used to continuously give them orders, he used to give them instructions. The Kiledar also used to follow government orders, instructions and letters. That is, whatever orders came from above, from Shivaji Maharaj, all those orders, instructions and letters were followed very closely by this Kiledar. Okay, and whatever the government or Shivaji Maharaj used to ask him to do, he used to keep on doing all those things. Then we come to the Sabnis. Now the Sabnis was as good as the accountant. See, money is very important, okay? If you take care of money, then money will take care of you. If you keep your expenses in check, then you will be able to live well. So the Sabnis or the accountant was a very, very important person on the fort. What he used to do? He used to keep accounts. That is, he used to record the income and the expenditure on the fort. How much money is coming in? How much money is being spent? All this record the Sabnis used to keep. Other than that, he used to also collect tax or revenue from the subjects on the fort and around it. The people, like we pay income tax now, even in the olden times people had to collect and pay taxes to the government. But of course it depends on the ruler. Sometimes the tax used to be a burden on the people. For example, there were certain Mughal rulers and there were certain rulers who used to harass the people with tax. When there were British people in India, the public was harassed because they had no income but they had to pay a lot of tax. But Shivaji Maharaj was not like that. He was a very just king. The Sabnis also had to handle the correspondence. Correspondence means what? Any letters which you have to write, any replies which have to be given, any requests that have to be made. All this work the Sabnis used to do. Now we come to the Karkhanis. The Karkhanis was again responsible for looking after the fort, but in a slightly different way as compared to the Sabnis. So what was his job? He had to supply grains and goods to the people living on the fort. Now who were the people living on the fort? There would be some people who were civilians like you and me, or they could be the soldiers. All these people were living on the fort. So the Karkhanis used to do the work of supplying the grains and goods to the people living on the fort. He was also responsible to arrange for ammunition for the guns and firearms at the time of war. Now the guns would require bullets, the bows would require arrows, the cannons would require the huge cannon balls. So all this work was given to the Karkhanis. He was responsible for arranging the ammunition in case a war broke out. And finally, it was the Karkhanis' job to look after and maintain the fort and the buildings on it. So if some minor repair has to be done, if a part of the fort is broken, to get it repaired and to install something new. So all this work would be done by the Karkhanis. Okay, so in today's lesson, children, we talked about the forts of Shivaji Maharaj in general. We also talked about his navy, and we discussed about the forts in detail. Now when we come back next time with the continuation of this video, we will talk about the navy which Shivaji Maharaj had, and that is going to be a very, very interesting video. Okay, so let me leave you at this for now. So please watch the entire video and also do the tasks which I have set for you. So children, now you have watched the video. So after you watch the video now, you will have to complete a few simple tasks. Now you might have watched the video on your computers or your laptops or your mobile phones. Now after you watch the video, what will you do? You will please go to the description box which is given below the video. So what is the description box? See, the description box looks like this. Alright, and after you go to the description box, you will see that there are a few questions there. Now what are these questions about? These questions are about the lesson that we just learned or the video that you just watched. So what will you do? You will think back properly about the lesson and you will try and answer these questions and note down the answers in your notebook if you want. Okay? After that, we have another task waiting. You will also click on the link which you will find in the description box to fill up the Google form. So now what is the Google form, children? It is nothing but a simple form. There are a few simple questions there about the video which you just saw and also about yourself. So these are the tasks now that you will have to complete after you watch each video. So children, wasn't that a very interesting lesson? I'm sure you learnt a lot of new things in this lesson. If you have liked this video, please hit the like button and also subscribe to my video so that you will get to see all the videos which I keep posting regularly.